Welcome to the pre-scene discussion of Strategic Business Leader for the September 2024 examination. So I presume you had gone through this 14-page lengthy case, and today we'll be debriefing the pre-scene so that we understand what is the organization, what is the industry, and the specific factors that can be very helpful for your examination. A reminder, many students think that pre-scene is useless. They think, yes, the task given in the final exam is based on the exhibits given in the final exam. That's true. Tasks are given based on the exhibit. So you refer to the exhibits when doing your task. But pre-scene is not useless. Pre-scene is actually pretty important, because your position in the examination is of a senior personnel. You can be a consultant, an advisor, or even you might be a director. So when you are responding to a particular requirement, may it be evaluating a decision, may it be providing advice, you cannot only refer to the facts given on that particular task. Why? You are a strategic leader. You are a strategic manager. You need to understand the overall organization when responding, when providing advice, when evaluating. If you only look at the immediate facts and ignore what's going on in the industry, ignore our company's strengths and weaknesses, ignore the opportunities and threats, then the response you provide is not fit for a visionary leader. So through the pre-scene, you should be able to understand what's going on in the organization and the industry. Facts in the pre-scene might be helpful when you are deriving your answers in the final examination. So that's the role of the pre-scene. And when you are evaluating the pre-scene with me, I basically take two steps when evaluating the pre-scene. First, I need students to create a mind map, because once you are in the final exam, you should have the pre-scene information just like a story in your head. So you should create a mind map, understanding what happened, what's going on, and what are the challenges and benefits that we can secure provided in the pre-scene. So the first thing you need to do is go through the pre-scene. The examiner has provided you 2 weeks so that you read the pre-scene, understand the industry, understand the organization, and identify critical facts. So go through it once, go through it twice. For some, reading once is sufficient. For some, reading multiple times is required. However, at the end of the day, you should be comfortable with the facts. So while you are reading the pre-scene, make sure you have your own notes which captures the facts you need to recall in the examination. So read the pre-scene, note down the facts. That's stage one. And once you have your own notes, those are the notes that you wrote based on your understanding. You wrote after you read the pre-scene. So you will be more comfortable with that note. You will be able to recall points quicker from your own note. And once you do that, read it multiple times until you have a clear picture. And finally, from those, you need to identify critical factors. So let's do a basic SWOT. Understanding the internal strengths and weaknesses, as well as the opportunities and threats from the external environment. Right? So I'll be doing these two stages, 2 steps to prepare for the final exam from the pre-scene. So let's look at the first step, which is having your own note where you extract facts from the pre-scene to your note. So let's take a look at this, and I'll take you through this note so that you really understand the pre-scene. So creating a mind map is pretty important, and it is very helpful only if you have your own notes, because you read, you understand. Referring to others' notes, yes, will be helpful, but you will not be comprehensive unless you have your own note. So for now, for reference, let's look at what I had noted down from the pre-scene. All right, so our company, our organization is Biago, so let's call it Biago, and we are into the transport network company, so it's called TNC in summary. So we are also operated in the country of Beeland. Our country is Biago, from the country of Beeland, which has a population of over 200 million citizens. Our company is operating only in the Beeland country, so it's a homegrown brand. It's not operating in other countries, and we have a history of 12 years. And at present, it is the second largest TNC, Transport Network Company, business in Beeland. So this largest is based on market share, which is revenue, as well as on customer numbers, how many customers we have. So that's the intro of what our company is, what our industry is, and our current situation in the industry. If you look at the industry information, Transport Network Communication, TNC, is an on-demand transportation services. It's a transport service where passengers can book the services through their mobile app or even through the website. Companies do not own the vehicles nor employ drivers directly. The vehicles that is used to provide the transport service is not owned by the company. It's not owned by Biago. Coming back, companies do not own the vehicles that is used to transport, nor the drivers who provide service. They are also not permanent employees. So what happens is the drivers use their vehicles to provide the transport service, and they are in the form of independent contractors. And when we look at the country of Beeland, it's a well-developed country, and approximately 80% of population is living in the urban areas. So they live and work in the urban areas. So you can basically identify that most of the people in the country are congested in few localities. And we have a rapidly growing urban population, which resulted in overcrowding. As we see, 80% of the population are in the urban areas. Those areas are overcrowded, and it has increased pressure in public transport services. When it comes to bus services, train services, which are preliminary public transport services, they are also experiencing pressure due to this overcrowding. The government is thus supporting solutions for the current transport challenge. So government is welcoming any alternative solutions. So Biago, which is into the TNC, is also an alternative solution for public transport. TNCs are becoming popular amongst the users. Why? Because it's convenient to book, and it's also having a very fair price, and it's recognized by the government as an alternative solution. Especially, it replaces people using their own cars. When the number of private cars are minimized, the amount of traffic congestion can be eased out to a major extent. So that's why even the government is having a positive response to TNCs. If you look at the Beeland market, the main competitor is Zenbi. We earlier looked that we are the second largest in the market share, and the largest market share is from Zenbi. It was the first TNC business in Beeland, so they are the introducers of the TNC service in our country. And now it is the first largest in Beeland and second largest in the world. So this is not a organization limited to one country. So this is a global organization. It's first largest in Beeland and second largest in the world. So there's one information that we are unsure, that is, Yes, we understood that Biago is from the country of Beeland. It's a home-based brand. What about Zenbi? Is it from Beeland or is it from some other country? That is a vacuum of information. Right? Biago was able to grow by predating Zenbi's market share. So throughout the years, Zenbi's market share has declined and Biago has increased its customers. Biago is only in Beeland. We discussed earlier, it's operating only in Beeland and it provides its service in 250 cities. The government intervenes in the TNC business through local authorities, where local authorities are to provide licenses to TNCs and their drivers. So the TNC organization has to obtain the approval, the license from the local authority, and drivers. They are also required to obtain the license from the relevant local authority. Many TNC organizations were attracted to the Beeland market. Right? Many TNC organizations are attracted to the market. However, most of them currently operate in a limited number of cities. Our company, Biago, is operating in 250 cities. And there are many new competitors. They are operating in a limited number of cities. As at the end of 2023, Zenbi and Beeland hold 85% of TNC's market share of Beeland. So two companies are dominating the market, 85% of market share of TNC in Beeland. Customers registered with TNCs in Beeland has been doubled in the last 8 years. This has shown that there's a high market growth rate. In the last 8 years. As at in 2023, 25% of population were active users, 1/4 of the population. This is pretty significant. Keep in mind, population includes kids, babies, and even the elderly who typically don't travel. Okay, so this includes them. So 25% of population are actively using TNC when there is public transport. This is pretty significant. We have competition. Traditional taxi cabs and public transport are also competitors who compete for the same passenger. Zenbi market share is gradually declining and Biago and other competitors have a gradual rise over the years. But this does not mean a revenue decline of Zenbi. Keep that in mind, guys. Market share is the overall revenue proportion. Just because Zenbi's market share is reducing, that does not mean the revenue is reducing. That does not mean customers are reducing. Because why? Along with the passage of time, the number of customers have increased drastically. The revenue has increased. They themselves have stated in the last 8 years, customers who are registered with TNC has doubled. Okay, 8 years ago, if Zenbi had 80%, and now after 8 years, if they are 40%, half the market share, but still the same number of customers, for an assumption. So keep this in mind. So this is a typical tricky area where students can confuse, thinking that okay, Zenbi is doing bad. No, we don't have information to look at that. Right. But we can come and decide that okay, relative to Zenbi, Biago and other competitors have increased their revenue, have increased their customer base. Are they predating the customers of Zenbi? Lack of information. TNC services. When it comes to TNCs, they provide a couple of services. One is ride sharing, where we provide one-to-one service. A rider provides a service to a passenger. Okay. So basically, customer's consent is required. Customer has to select the option when they are using the mobile application. And the advantage is cheaper price. The fare is shared. I'm sorry, ride sharing is where the ride is shared amongst multiple customers. So there was a miscommunication earlier. The ride is shared amongst multiple customers, and for this the customer has to provide the consent. The customer has to click ride share option. Only then other passengers can also opt for the same driver. The same vehicle might have multiple passengers, and the driver would basically find a route so that he drops each of them in their relevant destination and goes on. For this, the customer should provide the consent. If the customer does not click for the sharing option, then there will not be ride sharing. Relative to other options, this is having a cheaper price. Why? The fare is shared amongst multiple customers. And as you can see, multiple passengers use the same vehicle. It reduces congestion. And thereby, due to lesser vehicle utilization, we will have a positive impact to environment. So in reality, we reduce the environmental impact. On the other hand, we can say we bring a greater positive impact. Disadvantages: we are traveling with strangers, so in reality there is personal risk. We do not know what type of who are the other passengers, and there is a high possibility of getting delayed. In reality, practically, when the driver has to drop person to person, not all of them are in the same route. We'll have to go deviate to other routes to drop the other passengers, so there is a high possibility of getting further delayed. The second service is ride hailing. First one is ride sharing, where the same vehicle, the same driver will carry on multiple passengers. Ride hailing is one-to-one service. The customer will not share rides, and it's also booked via mobile phone or website. And this is the most popular service in TNC. And we can book the transport service on demand. We can take the app, we can take the mobile app, or log into the website and click it now when we require, get the vehicle. Or we can even schedule in advance. We can book now for a later time. When it comes to competitors, again, we have traditional taxi cabs from street or phone call. If you look at traditional taxi cabs, passengers can go to the street and call for a traveling or a parked taxi cab. They can go to the street, call for them, or else they can even give a call to a taxi and get it, arrive to the location to pick up. So these are the direct competitors. Next is micro-mobility. Micro-mobility is basically the business of where bicycles are provided for rental. For this, bicycles are docked in key locations around the city. They are docked. And these docking stations are also terminals to release the bicycle. So the mechanism is where the person needs to go to those docking stations and get the vehicle. How do? They again log into the website or the app, go to the platform and book and pay for the bicycle rent. Once they pay, customers are provided with a code to unlock the bicycle. And then customer will have to return the bicycle to any other nearby docking stations at the end of the hire period. So when it comes to micromobility, bicycles are rented on a timely basis. The advantages: very low price, and it's very environmental friendly. Bicycles, we do not use fossil fuels. So environmental pollution, air emissions are not there. And more efficient for shorter travels, especially when there is traffic. And the advantage of bicycle is it needs very low space to travel. So when there is traffic, we can avoid traffic to a large extent. So we looked at ride sharing services, we looked at ride hailing, micromobility, and then we'll be looking at customer rentals. TNCs and local and national car rental businesses will have a partnership. This is where the TNC starts a partnership with other local and national car rental businesses. So what happens here is the customer will log into the TNC interface and book a car rental. So we are partnership is basically where we provide room in the application for those rental car businesses to get customers. And the rental period are typically for 1 to 14 days. So these are not just one-off short distances. It is basically lengthy distances, lengthy rentals. They also provide a driver. These rental businesses will provide the car along with a driver. And the car rental businesses pay a commission to TNC for each car rental booked. Finally comes business services, number 5. These are services provided to organizations. So the TNC has a contract with the organization where we provide services, transport services to organizations. This includes providing employee transportation, commuting from home to organization, organization to home, commuting to events, commuting to meetings. And businesses use TNC to provide courtesy transport to customers. When businesses have visitors who do not have their own travel arrangement, they can utilize TNC. They can utilize TNC services to provide courtesy transportation services. Advantages to the customer: it reduces cost, saves time, and streamlines own ground transportation activities. If they have some temporary unplanned transportation, they need not use the company vehicles. They can use TNCs. They can avoid disrupting the company vehicles and company transportation plans. TNC customers. The procedure to be a customer is: first, you have to create an account on the website or the app. Customer must enter personal details, especially the bank card details, because all payments are done only through the debit and credit cards. 100% payments on cards. The price is quoted at the fair price is quoted at the point of booking. So only if the customer is willing to pay that fare, he can confirm. If he is not willing, he can reject. So the customer knows the fare in advance. Once notification is sent to driver and driver accepts the ride request, driver information is then sent to customer. This includes driver's profile, vehicle models, registration number. This is for customer to be aware of who the driver is, what the vehicle is, and to find the right vehicle. Customer can track driver location in the in-app map. So customer does not require to always stay near the road for the vehicle. He can even stay at home because he knows where the driver's location is. So when he sees the driver is nearby, then he can make preparations and go. So this increases convenience. Payment is deducted from card at the end of the ride. So payment is deducted once the ride is over, not at the start. At the end of the ride, customer is required to rate the driver. And once the journey is over, customer must rate the driver for their services. This will also act as a deterrent for the driver so that they will do their best to provide a good customer service, because ratings will be looked at by other customers in the future when booking a vehicle. On the other hand, if the customer experiences any unpleasant experience, this is a platform for them to provide their feedback. TNC drivers, they must register on the TNC's platform. Driver must choose the city they wish to drive in. Driver must have a full BLN driving license, private car hiring license, which is authorized by the local authority of the city they wish to drive in. The driver cannot drive until all background checks are done by a third party. This is to ensure that driver is credible. Photo to be uploaded for customer identification. Vehicle has to meet specifications. The vehicle conditions are also important. We cannot take the risk of a bad vehicle risking the passenger's life. So a vehicle's age, condition, full insurance requirements. So these are some of specifications that must be met. No need to own the vehicles. Driver need not necessarily own the vehicles. If it's on lease, that's also fine. Some TNCs offer leasing facilities as well. The ride fare is calculated by the TNC, not the driver. The driver can't unanimously ask for a subjective fare price because it is decided by the app. TNCs pay the driver 75% to 85% of the ride price. This is the proportion of revenue that goes to the driver. The rest is owned by TNC for their services. This typically attracts students, retired employees, and part-time workers. So they are the potential market segments that are interested in being a driver for TNCs. Students, retired employees, and part-time workers. Drivers are rated by customers at the end of the ride. Industry challenges. Revenue and profit affected by global economic conditions. So if you look at the industry of TNC, their revenue, their profit is affected by macroeconomic conditions. Global economic conditions outside the country, global economic conditions will also affect the TNC's revenue and profit. So these are uncontrollable factors, macro forces. So for example, slow economic growth, recession, increased in fuel prices. These will have an impact on customer spending. Look at the critical success factors. There are two main parties that are important because TNC eventually is a broker. So they connect the buyer and the seller. They connect the passenger and the driver. So drivers and customers are two main critical success factors We have to attract and retain drivers and also attract and retain customers. If drivers are unable to be retained, so this can include complaints and also negative publicity. Just keep on leaving. Obviously, when they leave, their feedback will have an impact on other drivers. And obviously, we need more and more drivers to penetrate the market more. Risks, safety issues. That's a major risk. For example, drivers and passengers being assaulted, facing theft, unauthorized use of card or bank details, sharing customer driver information to a third party. These are security risks. And this can also, the company can also experience possible lawsuits due to breach of contract. For this, they need internal controls to safeguard against illegal and improper activities. Look at environmental impact. Transportation sector. Air pollution and rising congestion are two major environmental risks. Many cities are introducing technologies to manage traffic flow and congestion. Clean air zones are being introduced in many cities to improve air quality. So because they want to keep the air clean, vehicles which emit fuel, fumes, typically fossil fuel basically emits fumes. So vehicles that emit such fumes are not welcome. So drivers have to pay a separate fee for driving in those zones. Latest developments. Food delivery is used by TNCs. Driverless and autonomous cars, these are being tested for TNCs. At present, we require at least one supervisor to be present until we are 100% confident in the systems. Because driverless cars, you just have to put the destination through the sensors. They'll be able to detect any barriers. Through GPS, they'll be able to identify optimal routes and they will drive. But at now, we need at least a supervisor to ensure that everything's going on well. Electric vehicles. This addresses the environmental pollution from fossil fueled cars. Industry KPIs, it's basically based on customers and drivers in terms of number of active customers, number of active drivers, the number of rides done, revenue from many sources, and net promoter score, which basically rates the customer satisfaction and driver satisfaction. In terms of regulation, there is no overall operating standards for technology, data security, driver status, environmental impact. There is no such specific regulation. However, in some countries, we can see trade unions and driver network associations that have emerged. And they have also obtained successes in challenging TNCs through the legal system on recognizing driver employment rights and status. Now let's look at the company information. When you look at the company information, it is Biago's information. Let's have a quick recap. This was established 12 years ago and the founders are Ed Foss and Kim Lee. They have had prior experience in setting mobile apps for different clients. So they have experience in creating mobile apps. Later, they required finance for that, so that they sought the assistance of venture capitalists. And you can also see that their own customers expanded. We discussed that the recent country's population is over 200 million. 2013, we had 16 million customers. 2014, we had a predicted 19 million customers. So one reason is expansion. One reason for expansion is the presence of more number of cities. We are present in more number of cities recently. We'll be looking at this data later on. Finally, ownership. The company, which was inaugurated 12 years ago, was listed in the stock exchange 5 years ago. At present, 80% of the shares is owned by institutional investors, 10% are owned by the founders, Ed Foss and Kim Lee, and the remaining 10% is by small private investors. We look at the services offered by Biago. We discussed 5 different services. 4 out of 5 are provided. We do not provide customer rental services. It is also in line with the expectations of the organization. Because Customer rental services is where we partner with other car rental services who predominantly could be using fossil fuels. We don't have that information, but the traditional cars use fossil fuels. If you're partnering with such car rental businesses which are using fossil fuels, they will have a deep impact to environmental pollution. And is our value based on that? That is a thing you have to think of. So in the exam, if you are going to recommend going for this sector, yes, we will earn more money, but is this acceptable? Is this in line with our expectations? That has to be thoroughly evaluated. Original intention at the start was ride sharing. Why? We wanted to ensure that we contribute to environmental safety. So if you are going to think of rental services, yes, providing car rental services, partnering with rentals businesses will increase revenue, but that is in contrary with our initial expectations. 12% of the revenue is from ride sharing, predominantly used by students and low income customers because they share ride, they reduce their fare. Major revenue is from ride hailing, one-to-one service. Micro mobility was introduced 5 years ago. We acquired an existing micro mobility business and then we used that acquired business to facilitate micro mobility services. There is a growing demand for micro mobility, and in the last 2 years, Biago invested significantly on infrastructure in the last 2 years. So we have 9 million active users in over 100 cities now. And when it comes to business services, where we provide services for organizations, this was actually initiated 2 years ago. So do not blindly look at this revenue breakdown. Yes, most of our revenue comes from ride hailing. That's the most in demand facility. Business services has the lowest revenue share, but keep in mind this was introduced just 2 years ago. Micromobility just introduced 5 years ago. And business services, we started from scratch. Keep that in mind. Next is technology. Biago is also in the platform of websites and mobile apps. Obviously, customers and drivers register, book services through websites and mobile apps. And in terms of technology, to process the payments, they require a payment processing software, especially for customer payments, as well as for the company to pay drivers on a weekly basis. Customer and driver database is they are using software to also have an understanding, a collection of customer and driver databases, which also includes personal data, bank data, driver statistics, including driver ratings. GPS softwares, where we locate customer, locate driver, and identify the recommended route and live location of both the passenger and driver. In terms of agreement, Biago has an agreement with a cloud services provider in Beeland to host the technology platform. So they have not specifically stated what type of agreement it is. It is a partnership where both Biago and the cloud service provider have both control over the platform, or else have we completely outsourced this to a third party. See, when it comes to our business, we are predominantly based on mobile apps and websites. So we are completely relying on technology. So technology is of high significant importance. If you look at Harman's process strategy matrix, processes with high significant importance should not be outsourced. So have a look at this. If they have predominantly stated we are outsourcing, that's something that you can question. Is it that it's too expensive to set up an IT team? Or are we not sure of our security and we are relying on a third-party expert? What is the reason? Track all data on services. We can also track all data on service using technology, including time of order, time of confirmation, driver's arrival, time of journey completion, customer ratings, and driver ratings. This will improve the service experience and predict future customer behavior. Finally, we rely significantly on technology for marketing purposes, because most of our marketing purposes are based on digital media and traditional media. Main customer engagement is through digital media. Emails, in-app notifications, social media content, these are the main platforms used to communicate with the customers. And our marketing messages, we go with Biago. you look at the staff, we have over 5,000 staff in 60 locations. Board of director composition, we have 6 executive directors, and then we have 6 plus 1, 7 non-executive directors. Keep in mind, chairperson is a non-executive. We have 7 NEDs, 6 EDs. So if we ignore the chairperson, the number of non-executive directors and the number of executive directors are equal, so there is no problem with the typical corporate governance recommendation. However, there's a problem in the organization structure here, that is CEO's role. Normally, we say that the chair oversees the board. Yes, the chairperson oversees the board, both the executive and non-executive. And the CEO must oversee the executive board. But here, CEO is not overseeing the executive board. The remaining 5 directors and the CEO are having equal authority. They are in the same hierarchy. So is the CEO able to oversee the board? As per the organization structure, there is no such high authority. Risk registers. The company maintains a risk register, and some extracts were also given in the pre-scene. So you know what risk register is. A risk register is basically a document that compiles every risk factor identified, evaluated in the organization, and it also includes the date, who identified the risk, what is the risk response, who implemented, and the current situation of the risk factor. It has the complete history of the risks identified and assessed. So they've identified risks on organization reputation, brand, and culture. This includes having illegal, negligent, and reckless behavior by drivers or customers, concerns of customers or drivers on safety, platform issues where we can have disruptions or defects. For example, privacy and data security breaches. Failure to operate in consistence with values and mission. Failure to maintain culture which employees value and wish to work in. Technology infrastructure. Risks in technology infrastructure, system vulnerability to security incidences and breaches. Hackers using newer methods to breach. So our old internal controls might not be adequate. Relying on third-party cloud service provider for security. That's our current situation. We are relying completely on third parties. We don't have an internal IT expert, because we know that technology, privacy, security breach, or problems in the website and app, these areas cannot have problems. It will completely disrupt our organization reputation. Companies using cloud, a third-party service provider, it's fine, but the company does not have any internal experts. That's the major problem. As we discussed, harmonious process strategy matrix, items of significant importance are typically done in-house, either automate or done in-house. We do not give it to outsiders because we cannot bear a risk on those. Competition. High threat from existing competitors, yes. Even though we are the second market leader, and only 2 companies dominate 85% of market share, there is high threat from the market leader, and there is emerging competitors as well. Even though their presence in number of cities is limited, they are emerging. High threat from new entrants. We also compete with public transport, taxi cab, rental car, and as well as micro mobility businesses. Licensing and industry regulations. Licensing is provided by local authorities. There is possibility to be, and these local authorities have a high possibility in being pressurized by other transport providers, which might hinder the granting of license to us. Expected increase in regulations on TNCs on environment and safety. And finally, let's have a quick look at the organizational foundation or the infrastructure. Vision, mission, and values. The mission is to provide, let's look at the vision first. The vision is to have a world where transport and technology work seamlessly to bring people, businesses, and communities together. So they want to be, the vision is to adapt technology to the extent that transport is done very seamlessly, very efficiently, and very convenient. Mission is to provide communities with affordable, accessible, and sustainable transport. There are 3 factors which are looking at in our mission. Transport should be affordable, the price, accessible, as well as sustainable. Values. Our ethical code of conduct ensures that we maintain our focus on operating to the highest ethical and professional standards. Our focus is also on the safety of our customers, drivers, and the communities we work with. So Biago has many procedures for customer and driver safety. This includes having an annual background driver check by a third-party expert, continuous driver monitoring for criminal convictions. If we identify that the driver has criminal convictions, we remove them from the platform. Drivers must complete an annual program on safety for them. This is similar to CPDs, continuing professional development. We keep on making sure that drivers are attending this program and they are aware of protocols that they need to adopt for safety. Customers and drivers have an in-app emergency button 24/7, instantly connecting to security team. Customers have friends and family notification system. They can designate people on knowing ride progress. So for example, kids, they can have their guardians or the parents being aware of their ride progress. Most drivers are equipped with cameras. Data privacy, compliance with all bill and legislation on data privacy, storage and usage. Expect cloud service provider to do the same in customer data protection. You also expect the cloud service provider to follow the same levels of controls. A compulsory rating to both drivers and customers at the end of the ride. At the end of the ride, customers will rate the driver. Driver also must rate the customer. It's two-way. If less than 80% satisfaction, then we will also ask them to request. We will also request them to provide more details. Why is the rating low? This is for continuing professional development. This is for total quality management. Procedures for the environment. Encouraging usage of shared rides and micro-mobility options. You know what micro-mobility options? Bicycles on rent. Completely avoids carbon emission. Shared rides reduces the number of vehicles in use. Invest further on micro-mobility infrastructure. That's also a procedure taken. We had started investing on infrastructure for the last 2 years. We'll be further going to invest further. We launched an in-app feature where customers can select rides in electric or hybrid vehicles instead of fossil fuel vehicles. So Biago is also launching an in-app feature where in booking a car, for example, they can also select what type of car. Are they okay with any car? Are they focusing on fossil fuels? Or they can even select electric cars, hybrid cars. So we are placing one more simple feature in the app. So environmental conscious passengers will select electric cars or hybrid cars. This will also possibly, we do not know, possibly see a growth of passengers using environmental friendly vehicles. What about drivers using fossil fuel cars? Some of them might be geared to replacing vehicles, especially those who are on lease. They might think of moving to eco-friendly vehicles to attract customers. Continue to find ways to incentivize drivers to use environmentally friendly vehicles. Example, assist in making contact with electric car rental businesses. And they have given the KPIs used by Biago. One is on revenue. As we can see, with the passage of time, revenue has increased. Active customers, with the passage of time, number of customers have increased. With the passage of time, more rides. Makes sense, right? More active customers, more revenues. More customers, more rides. Percentage of revenue per service. So if we look at percentage of revenue per service, guys, ride hailing, slight up and down, but see, this is percentage of revenue. Our revenue has increased significantly. It was just past 400 million 5 years ago, and recently it was past 800 million, doubled. But the percentage of revenue is more or less the same. So see, proportionally revenue from ride hailing has grown. Ride sharing, slight decrease. As I said before, do not just think of the percentage. Overall revenue has doubled. So in terms of revenue in dollars, in rupees, ride sharing, we would have maintained or even grown. But relative percentage, it has declined. We can see overall customers, the percentage who is using ride sharing has declined to a certain extent. Micromobility, you can see the third, grown. And then business services. Business services was actually introduced 2 years ago. It has grown in these 2 years. Net Promoter Score is a rating on customer satisfaction. We can see that Biago satisfaction has reduced over the years. But keep in mind, you can't tell it, yeah, it doesn't look good, but you can't say we are doing really bad. Why? They have also given the industry average. Industry average also has further declined. Thankfully, last year ours and industry average were the same, but this year we are doing better than the industry. But still, we do not have information about the market leaders' satisfaction. That's a data that is more important for us to compare rather than look at industry average. We can look at the market leader to understand. Okay, we and the market leader are enjoying 85% of the market share. Which service has customers more satisfaction? At any given point of time, we are equal or greater. Our customers have equal or greater satisfaction than the average market customers. And thankfully, in the recent year, our customer satisfaction was way ahead than the industry average. So reasons to be identified. It's not nice to have lesser customer satisfaction. One thing I said we can't comment is the number of passengers have doubled over the last 8 years. So we do not know why the new who is unhappy with our service. Is it the new customers or is the old customers? We do not have enough information. The only thing is relative to the industry average, we are not doing really bad. But here the next problem, driver satisfaction also has declined. We need to know the reasons here. We can't see if driver satisfaction is also one of the major KPIs. If drivers are unhappy, they might go for other TNCs. That's an unwanted loss. Now the information, Biago staff composition. We have over 5,000 employees and over 50% of its staff are in research and design, product management, data science. Adding these 20, 30, 40, 52% are in research and designing, product management, data science. So related to product and technology, there are more than 50% of our employees. Yes, we are connecting buyers and sellers and our platform is mobile apps and websites. So we need more people who are experts in these platforms, on technology, on the product that we provide. Customer services 14%, legal and safety 12%, sales and marketing 10%, finance 5%, HR 4%, other 3%. Now, for example, don't think sales and marketing 10% is bad. See, look at the numbers, 500 employees. We cannot come to a greater conclusion here unless we can compare with the industry average or the market leader. The only thing we can say is majority of our employees are predominantly based on the scientific, technological, and product teams. Keep in mind, drivers are not considered as employees. They are independent contractors. And finally, Biago's growth. As you can see, we were in the industry for 12 years. In terms of number of cities we were operated in, throughout this, it has increased drastically. Obviously, with a large number of cities, we also had more and more customers. We can see a positive correlation here. Obviously, it should be positive. If it's negative, that means that something serious wrong here. So those are the major information that's provided in the present, guys. So here, once you read this, you have a proper picture and understand in your mind. A homegrown brand which introduced the product as the second in the market, and now is the second largest market leader, which provides 4 out of 5 services, and their preliminary plan was to provide sharing services for environmental protection. And now they are focusing more and more on micro-mobility services, where they have also taken initiative to invest in infrastructure. We have further market penetration. We have where they expect the number of customers to increase from 60 million to 19 million. But there is one major possible weakness, that is they have completely relied on a third party for cloud services, third party for privacy and security. So that is an area, a significant area of significant importance the company has outsourced, which is a serious problem that should be thought of. If we are really incapable of handling, if we can't find IT experts, if we don't have the infrastructure to maintain our security systems, then we have no way. Outsourcing is the most practical. But if we can find people, we are a listed company. We listed 5 years ago. We should be able to raise money, raise capital. So why can't we invest in infrastructure, IT infrastructure, recruit expert IT personnel? Because this is a long-lasting investment. We need to ensure privacy and data data security to ensure our company is sustainable. So that is one major problem we saw. On top of that, we look at various threats to customers, threats to drivers, threats to everyone's data security, physical threats on assault, on theft. We looked at many threats. So you should be able to read this and create a nice mind map. So once you are in the exam as a senior personnel, you know the whole story of the organization. Based on our discussion, let's have a quick look at a SWOT analysis, because these factors in the SWOT are the key identified elements that will be very helpful for exams. So let's look at the strengths first. Let's have a quick look at the strengths. So if you look at the strength, guys, we are the second largest in B-Land, approximately around 35%, because the examiner has stated, yes, together with ZenB, we have around 85% market share is held, that is given. And based on the graph, we can basically come to a conclusion we have an approximate 35% market share. Gradually rising market share over the years, and it is a home brand. ZenB's home brand status is unclear. We have a 12-year history, and we were the second to introduce TNC in B-Land. We have predicted an increase of customers by 18.75% next year, because they had given in the exam our last year number of customers was 16 million, and we predict to increase to 19 million in the next year. So there's an 18.75% predicted increase in customers. Listed in stock exchange, so we are listed in the stock exchange. So one benefit of listing in stock exchanges, investors will have more confidence, more trust on a listed company, and we have access to greater funds through shares. Focus on micro-mobility. So we are focused on micro-mobility, that is on bicycle rentals. Since 5 years ago, we had acquired a micro-mobility business, and now we have invested in infrastructure in the last 2 years. And we have planned to further invest in micro-mobility infrastructure in the future. And this also is backed by a growing demand for micro-mobility services and its zero environmental pollution. Technology platform or system is in the cloud. So we are using the cloud. Cloud, it's both an advantage and disadvantage, strength and weakness. Weakness is about privacy and data security. Advantage, real-time data. And obviously the services of TNC should be 24/7. We need real-time data. Cloud is required for that. Marketing has a heavy presence in the digital landscape. Yes. Most of our communications are also on the digital landscape. Dominantly emails, in-app notifications, social media content. Since we are communicating with customers on the digital landscape, marketing is also preliminary on the digital landscape. But we have not forgotten of digital platforms. We still do that, but still we have a heavy presence in the digital media. More than 5,000 employees, 60 locations, and we provide service for 250 cities. Our Viago app is providing passenger service. We have drivers in 250 cities. We also maintain a risk register. That means we are accounting for risks when we evaluate drivers annually, which will enhance customer security. And if customers are aware of this process, they will also have more trust in our organization, in our services. Typically, customer segments like students, kids, females who value personal security or in traveling, they will have a greater trust in Viago. Most drivers equipped with cameras for security and monitoring. Customers can select the right type. So customers who are environmental conscious, they have the facility to select the right type, including types of vehicles, electric and hybrid vehicles. Employees also have most of the employees, we have a heavy recruitment of employees in the research, design, product management, and data science and technology areas. So more than 50% of the employees, 52% of the employees were recruited in these areas. We had a quick discussion earlier on. Those are the major strengths of Viago. In terms of the weaknesses, cloud service provider hosts technology platform. Okay, yes, we are using the cloud, it's a good thing, but the weakness is we predominantly rely on this cloud service provider for security. Okay, this is the technology platform is of strategic importance, so should Viago outsource it? should Biago give it to a third party? We have to see whether is Biago losing control over this platform. If Biago does not have control over this third-party platform, it's similar to outsourcing our strategic significant process, which is highly problematic. This will pose a big risk for sustainability. Biago does not have in-house experts for privacy and data security management as per the information given. CEO's role is also problematic. We had discussed that as per the organization structure, CEO has similar authority to the executive directors, but in reality, CEO should be heading the executive directors. So that seniority and authority is not displayed in the organization structure. Decrease in customer satisfaction levels is a major problem, is a major weakness, but we have to find the reason. This is an observation that is common in the industry. Decrease in driver satisfaction is also a major problem. Reason unknown. Opportunities. 80% population is residing in the urban area, leading to high congestion, overcrowding, and public transport pressure. So TNCs see great opportunities due to this situation. Yes, it looks bad, but TNC has opportunities. Government is also supporting solutions. So TNCs, including our organization, government would be willing to facilitate our operations. TNCs are known for convenience and fair price, so our public is also accepting our service. Customers of TNC have doubled over the last 8 years. Predominantly, we have seen over the last 8 years, customers have doubled because of their acceptance. So the industry itself have penetrated, including our organization. 25% of the current population active users of TNCs. And clean air zones, there's another opportunity, that is the government is wanting to have clean air zones. And Biago has also focused more on micromobility services, which is bike rental services, which is in line with the clean air zone requirements. It does not pollute the air. So micromobility services has greater leverage. Biago has invested in infrastructure in the last 2 years. They are going to further invest on micromobility infrastructure. So this is a segment that Biago can heavily exploit. Electric vehicles are environmentally friendly. So Biago is also now promoting electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles. So this is also in line with the expectations of these environmental groups. TNC has high security in their applications. This is a general opportunity for all TNCs, because through their apps and websites, there is location tracking, in-app emergency contact, driver identification, driver ratings, etc., which is attractive for higher security seekers. So, and finally, we have threats. The market leader ZenB has a greater penetration and was the initiator of TNC in Beilan. ZenB introduced the TNC platform 14 years ago, 2 years before us. So they have the first mover advantage. Yes, we have seen that the market share of ZenB has reduced. That is the market share percentage. But we do not know whether their revenue and customers have reduced. That is an information gap. Local authorities' license is required for business and driver operation. So for us to operate in a particular zone, we need to get the authority from the local authorities, license from the local authorities. Drivers have to obtain the license from the local authorities. Yes, even though government supports alternative solutions for public transport, we had also seen that other competitors are pressurizing the local authorities in terms of our license issuing. Expected increase in regulations on TNCs. We can also further expect more regulations on TNCs in the future. Safety of customers and drivers are a common risk, which is a major threat. Threat of assault, theft, unauthorized use of cards and bank information, information breach, and there's a threat of lawsuits from breaches of contract. Air pollution is a threat. So presence of fossil fuel vehicles especially has increased air pollution, which can also directly harm the industry. Cities introducing technologies to manage congestion and traffic. So cities are introducing technology to manage congestion and traffic. This is a good thing for the economy, but for us, if the cities are well able to manage traffic congestion, then that might have a negative impact on TNCs attracting customers. Imagine now the city is regulated in a way where there is very low traffic. So now part of the citizens might be interested in having their own vehicles, private vehicles. The government sees there's no pressure on public transport. So the motivation to encourage TNCs will not be as before. Possible threat. Clean air zones, as we discussed earlier, there are many clean air zones where drivers are unwelcome, especially fossil fuel vehicles. So drivers have to pay to enter these zones. What is the impact of this to our TNCs? And what is the impact to our organization, Beeland, on ride hailing and sharing? So if our drivers of Beeland have to have their passengers travel through these zones, what's the implication? How is it captured in their fee? Will the passengers be willing to pay more due to this fare? Are they willing to bear this additional fare? These are things that has to be considered. We do not know how much fee is levied in these clean air zones. If it's too significant, will the customers be willing to bear this pay? Because one of the reasons why TNCs are accepted is convenience and the fair price. The addition of these clean air zone fees, will that affect the customers' usage of TNCs? Driverless cars and GPS. In the future, at present they have stated yes, we have driverless cars. When it comes to TNCs, at present we can't have 100% independence. We need to have one supervisor minimum. In the future, when driverless car mechanism becomes perfect, along with GPS, this has a big threat on replacing TNCs due to greater convenience in travel. So customers can have their own private vehicle, where they can have the vehicle drive autonomously. That is a possible reality, because you can't expect TNC's drivers to stay at home and have their vehicle go on and off. It's very difficult. So even if there's driverless cars, there is a limited extent to which it will help TNC's drivers. This basically is used by private vehicle owners. Rather than driving, they be a passenger, have the vehicle autonomously drive. This can also have an impact on customers. Some of them might move to personal vehicles. Now they have stated that in certain countries, trade unions have emerged, driver associations have emerged, and they had also proved to win lawsuits. So in case if such an action is occurring in country of Beeland, this could lead to Biago and other TNCs compromising on its facilities and returns. And this has significantly affected by global economic conditions. These industries, especially TNCs, are significantly affected by global economic conditions because these are uncontrollable factors, macro factors, unavoidable risk elements, which we do not have any control, and these threats will have a significant impact on our performance. So those are the basic SWOTs, which, as you had identified, these are factors that might be of major importance in the examination. On top of this, I have noted out two additional factors. One is, at present, they have stated in the current industry, TNC industry, there is no regulation on data security, driver status, and environmental impact. The government has not set sufficient, has not set regulations on the minimal data security, driver status, and environmental impact. Yes, we have many other protocols, but it is not regulated. This has to be thought of on a very larger scale to promote the industry as a whole. And in terms of values, we had valued ethical conduct, safety of customers, drivers, and communities. But if you look at one area here, safety of customers, safety of drivers, privacy and safety of driver and customer details is not in the control of Biago, because we have outsourced this to third-party cloud servers. So our actual decision strategy is not acceptable to the value of safeguarding customers and drivers. So there is a small conflict over there. So these are possibilities you can see in terms of strategy criticisms. So with this, we have completely had a quick look at the SWOT, where we looked at the strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. And these factors in these 4 areas are what is very critical. You need to be aware of these because these have a high degree of usage in the examination. With this comes our discussion on the pre-scene for the September 2024 examination. We are ending this session, and I hope you guys have a productive exam.